Ange, we're a week away. How does it feel now you can look forward to a first European final?
Yeah, it's you kind of know it's significant because the prep started like a week out with the media and everything. So yeah, it should be interesting. Obviously, we got a league game sort of before then, but yeah, it's exciting. I mean, I guess it's the position you want to be in. Kind of a European trophy up for grabs, and you got the possibility of achieving something special. So yeah, it feels good.
I was watching the dressing room speech that you gave on Thursday. One of the first things you mentioned were the players that weren't there. Why is that so important to you?
Only particularly because of the year we've had. It's needed a collective effort. And if you talk about Europe itself, there are times where we were fielding really young teams, guys, and you don't get to that point of where we are now unless there's contributions along the way. And then, things happen to players, whether that's Matters or, say, Lucas with their injuries or Radu. If not for their injuries, they would have been still part of it. So it's important to acknowledge that and understand that, it's been a collective effort to get to this point. And, for us to get to that final sort of position we want to be, it's going to take collective effort again.
I was watching some of the press conference after the game, and someone made the point that you're the first Australian to manage a European final, and you were very quick to reply with, "And the first Greek."
Yeah, correct. Yeah, very proud of my Greek heritage, and I think that's significant because this league has attracted people, managers from all over the world. So I represent those two countries pretty proudly, proud of my Greek roots and proud of where I grew up.
I mean, do you feel like a responsibility almost to represent Australians, Greeks with your career?
Yeah, I do, because like I said, it's not it's not a common occurrence, and I know I have family and friends in both countries, and they take great pride in that. Not just because of their association to me, but even if they don't know me, the fact there's a bond there, and I love the fact that I'm representative of that, and I take that responsibility, seriously, and hopefully, again, I can sort of, give some joy to people who maybe have, never been sort of had any association with me or even followed my career for too long, but there's a natural sort of then attachment because of where I come from.
I know you've spoken in the past about times where you'd sit in the middle of the night with your dad and you'd watch these European finals. There's going to be a lot of people in Australia here that are going to be able to do the same thing next week. What does that mean to you to give that experience?
Yeah, look, it's I would really love to take a couple of weeks to mull that over, because it's kind of it becomes very emotional for me, because I just think, like I said, that was me and my dad, watching, European Cup finals or UEFA Cup finals or Cup Winners' Cup finals, and to think that that's going to be replicated now, and especially the people I know and the people who have kind of been in my life, that they're going to see me out there is, it's surreal for sure. Bit of imposter syndrome there, where you kind of, it's just not right. But at the same time, I've worked hard for it. A lot of people in my inner circle have made a lot of sacrifices for me to be in this position. So, I appreciate it.
I know you said after Thursday that your wife was there in the away end. I think, do you spot her in the celebrations as well?
Yeah, I didn't for a while, because usually her blonde hair sticks out. She had a hoodie on because it was a bit rainy, yeah, she had the weird red gloves on, and spotted her out. And look, she's unbelievable. She's like I said, sometimes I feel like I've got the easy bit because I'm doing what I love since day one. She's the one that sort of, with our boys, has sort of had to, I don't know how many times we've changed houses and followed along. But she's also passionate about football. She loves it. She gives me honest feedback, which hurts. But yeah, it's just to see her smiling face after a game. That's and my family, but especially her, is all the reward I need.
Did you really promise your boys a trip to Bilbao? What's it going to mean to be able to share that with them?
Yeah, no, they're coming. So we've got permission. Luckily, UCS, beautiful school, that have been very understanding, and Yeah, both boys have got a couple of days off, so I'm not sure what they're happier about, the days off or coming to the game.
It's interesting what you were talking about, the sort of the slight imposter syndrome that you feel like you should be with your friends on the terraces. Like, do you still get that despite all your success? Do you still feel like you almost have to keep proving yourself?
I do, because it's just, I guess it's because of where I've come from, and I got 4 of my closest mates who are going to fly from Australia. We met when we were 9 years old playing football together, and I've known them for now 50 years we're coming on to. And in an alternate world, we'd be making these trips together and watching somebody else, whoever we're supporting, we'd been to World Cups together or other games together. And the fact they're flying halfway around the world to a European final to see their mate sort of on the touchline, I have to, sort of just compose myself and understand I've got a massive responsibility, but it feels surreal.
Talking about that sort of proving yourself, like when you get questioned from outside the club, and there's been a lot this year, I know. How does that make you feel? Is it annoying? Do you listen to it?
Sometimes it gets annoying, but I also understand it, because I think I'm a bit of a outlier, and I think when you are an outlier, like I said, this is not a common thing to see somebody like me in this position. It's only natural people will question things and question, I think I've earned the right to be here. I think all the success I've had is valid success, but because it hasn't come in conventional quarters here in Europe where people have easy reference points, invariably you get questioned. And, I don't think there'd be another manager who gets to the European final that's had their kind of ability to manage question as much as I have. But so I understand some of it, and it's logical, but there is some of it that does get annoying after a while, because you just go, well, if you're so dismissive of everything I've done, and I am here, then it doesn't say much for the competition I'm in, So either you've got to weigh up against the other, Either I'm doing something significant and I've earned the right, or this isn't a big deal anyway because anybody can do it.
I was thinking about this yesterday, whether there's a parallel between, obviously, your unusual background to here, and Spurs as a club who have this reputation, this culture that you've been brought in to change. Do you see any parallels? Is that why you feel like you should defend the club as much as you do?
Well, I do know what it feels like to be like that, to sort of be looked upon as something, that sort of in a perception way doesn't reflect how you feel. So, this football club, it's got a great history. It has had success, but because that success came back at a certain period of time, it hasn't happened since. It does feel like sometimes it doesn't get the respect it deserves. So I do defend it. But at the same time, I think the best way to change that perception is to do what people say you can't. And I've done that my whole career, It's like, that's kind of been my journey of doing things people didn't think I could do or still think I can't do. So for me, that's part of that process of, defending the club, but also making the club stand up for itself as well, to say, okay, well, we understand, what the perception of us is, but we're going to change that.
You did sort of touch on this on Thursday, but winning the Europa League, how far do you think that would go to changing the culture, changing the narrative?
It's a great opportunity, I think, because it probably destroys 50% of the narrative that exists around the club in terms of, its stature at the moment, is that this constant question, well, until you actually win something, everything else is irrelevant. It doesn't matter how nice your stadium is, the supporters, your training facilities. It doesn't matter if you've, have been runners-up in the league or runners-up until you win something, So once you do win, and this is a significant trophy, that's out of the equation. Then different questions come, and well, you have to kind of repeat that, but that's a different course you navigate. But all that sort of stuff around, that you haven't won anything, I think disappears in, one foul swoop.
Looking at this European run to this point, it hasn't always been easy. For you, how have you had to change, adapt things? Because knockout football is so different.
It is, and I think people have sort of mentioned about our change of approach, but my sort of history and my experience in knockout football is that's how the games go. They're rarely free-flowing, open, because of what's at stake. And I've really seen the group really grow, particularly through these knockout stages, because we've had different challenges in all of them, but we've kind of addressed them in the same way of being really organised and disciplined. I know I spoke to you before the game saying that's going to be really important. I think there was real strong evidence. The reason I think we were so dominant against Bodo, who give everyone problems, is we were disciplined, we were organised, really clear-headed about what we needed to achieve, and I think that's really important. And I've seen the growth in the group there, and I think it's a key for knockout football.
You're facing Manchester United in the final. It's interesting listening to Ruben Amorim after their game on Thursday. He implied there were maybe some similarities between you and him. Do you see those?
Well, we've definitely similarities in the way our season's gone. Obviously, for Ruben, it's been a bit more challenging in terms he came in, sort of not at the beginning of the year. But I guess from an emotional standpoint and the noise around the club, we're kind of dealing with similar things of something that is so fantastic in terms of a European run, and also something that's obviously the opposite of that, the other extreme in the league. And he's kind of battling with some injuries as well, probably not to our extent, but still affecting him as well. So there are some parallels there. And for both of us, I guess this is a significant game because it can really salvage what many will look as either a disastrous series or, I think in our perspective, certainly a historic year. I think it's a bit different for Man United because they've still experienced success in recent years, even though they've kind of haven't been at the levels that they expect to. They've still won cups and their supporters have felt that joy. But there's some parallels there.
Obviously, you have beaten them 3 times this year, twice under Ruben Amorim. Is there any similarities or anything you can take from those? Or
I don't think so. I just think finals are just unique beasts. The form going into it, head-to-head going into it, means absolutely nothing. That's my experience, and it's why you've seen so many finals. You can have your favourites, you can have your underdogs. It's all meaningless. Previous form's meaningless. Even form leading into it's meaningless because it's about the day. What you do is you prepare that they're going to be at their best, and we've got to prepare for us to be at our best, and then we'll see who comes out on top.
Just lastly, I want to take you back to, I think, the last thing you said in that speech on Thursday night. You can change things. Is that the message for next week?
Yeah, it is. And it's been sort of, from the day I arrived, the message of it's not for the want of world-class players. This club has had world-class players. It's not for the want of world-class managers. They've had world-class managers. It's something else that's going to change this club. And I think this group of players has the opportunity to do that. And I guarantee you every single one of them, irrespective, and, Cuti Romero is a World Cup winner. Irrespective of what they do, they'll be remembered at this football club if they can bring this trophy home.